Hi, everyone. This is Anthony with PopGamer.com. I'm here with Doug.
Hello.
She's an American opera singer from Nashville, Tennessee. She's performed on Broadway and all over the world in such incredible stage performances as The Wizard of Oz and Camelot. She can sing, she can dance, she can act. Doug, she's a triple threat. But to most of us who game, she's most recognizable as the voice of GLaDOS in Portal and as the announcer in Team Fortress 2. Of course, we're here with the lovely Ellen McLaine. Ellen, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so pleased to be talking to you, Anthony, and to you also, Doug.
Obviously, big fans, big fan of Portal, big fan of Team Fortress. But your voice is really one of the greatest and most memorable in Portal. What was that like for you?
Well, you know, when I recorded Portal, the first few sessions, I kind of didn't know what I was doing.
Really?
You know, I had gotten this request to do an audition to try and sound like a sound file that they'd sent me of a computer-generated voice. And I got as close to that sound as I could. And then, you know, so often I do enough auditions that sometimes I don't know what I'm being called in to do. But when I got called into the studio, it was like, oh, okay, we want you to do this voice, this computer-generated voice. And so what the producer, Bill Van Buren, and the writer, you know, Eric Wolpaw, and, of course, Kim Swift was the, I guess, production manager for the whole Portal thing. Mm-hmm. They would play sound files for me of this computer-generated voice because they had created the whole game to the computer-generated voice, not realizing that it was copyrighted and that it would be cheaper to hire an actor to do it than to, you know, deal with the copyright.
Wow.
So that's how I got to do Portal. And then, of course, you know, at the end of Portal, when everything falls apart, the writers also realized that even though I sounded like a computer, I'd have to have a lot more emotions, sort of, you know, in my voice for different things. Right. And they realized that the computer-generated voice also couldn't go there. So while maintaining the sound of a computer, they also wanted me to have an emotional quality to the sounds that I was creating. So
right.
It was lots of fun to record and, you know, no stress at all. We had so much fun. Everybody was so funny and, you know, they made me laugh all the time and I had a great time doing it. And that was Portal.
Right.
And then when they told me, you know, they told me Eric Wolpaw and Kim Swift told me about Jonathan Colton and how Valve had wanted to use Jonathan Colton in some capacity, obviously as a composer, but in some capacity with Valve. And they thought, well, we'll have him write a song to go over the closing credits for Portal. And I had told them that I was a singer, and they believed me and got Jonathan Colton to write Still Alive, and I got to record it. And it was all just so serendipitous and fortuitous and, you know, just sort of when all the planets aligned and everything went together beautifully for Portal.
Excellent. Wow, it sounds like just genius meets talent, and they made it into something unique. We heard you sing on the Portal 2 soundtrack, as well as live at the Anime Midwest in 2011.
Yeah.
And your voice is simply perfect. What does it take to get to the level of singing you perform at today? What's that been like for you?
Well, Anthony, I'm 60 years old, and I have been singing since I was a tiny child, because what we would do on car trips with my family is my mother sang with us, and she got my sisters and me to sing along. And so I have been singing for as long as I can remember. And it was really very early that I decided that I was going to be a singer. I mean, when I was 5 and 6 years old, I had already made this decision that I'm going to be a singer. And, of course, at that age, I didn't really understand what it took or what it entailed, except all I knew is I loved to sing, and I sang all the time, all the time.
And with sisters in the car, that's got to help with bring out the volume as well, right?
Oh, yeah, and older sisters. So you know, they were better singers than I was. And,
oh, wow.
And, you know, it's interesting, Anthony, that since I was younger, my mother always just let me sing melody, and my sisters sang the alto part.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was a little bit more advanced intellectually. Well, I still consider that a deficit on my part. I still have a harder time singing harmony than my sister does, because I was the one who always got to sing, you know, the melody. So with my students, I make sure that everybody also learns how to sing harmony. But
so you teach singing as well?
Oh, yes. I teach through the Village Theater, which is a theater here in the Seattle area, and they've got a location in Issaquah, Washington, and in Everett, Washington. And I actually teach through their educational arm called Kids Stage. And I teach voice, but all of our Kids Stage students learn how to sing, act, and dance. And actually, with another faculty member, Lisa Nathans, I'm running a voiceover workshop on Saturday morning, and my older students are going to be participating in Global Game Jam 2013, and we're going to be hooked up with the team out of Atlanta, which is SPSU, which is Southern Polytechnic University.
Okay.
And we're going to have a link up with the Berklee College of Music in Boston, Mass. And the Berklee students are going to be providing music and soundtracks, and my students are going to be providing voices. And, of course, the Game Jammers are going to be developing games in Atlanta. And we are all going to be working together this weekend.
That sounds awesome. So tell us a little bit about that Global Game Jam. I guess it's, you know, your voice talent meets game developers.
It's young game developers. It's really an international organization. I am told by my friends at SPSU in Atlanta that the biggest team is the Egyptian team, but they also are in connection with Norway. So I said, oh, it's the Pharaohs and the Vikings. And they're actually the biggest team so far this year. But the SPSU team, you know, including Berklee and including Kids Stage out here, we're near the top of the list. This is going on worldwide this weekend. You can visit Global Game Jam. You know, just Google it. And you can find out all about, you know, you can find out a lot more about it than I know. But this is the first year that SPSU's team has had voice actors involved. Last year they had Berklee, so they had musicians involved, or I should say instrumentalists to provide music. Mm-hmm. And this year they're also going to have actors from Kids Stage out here in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow. Well, that's really where it's headed. I mean, it started with the 8-bit music, and then moving into the voiceovers and actors screen capping or motion capturing, and it's really where we came from in terms of Pop Gamer, where we want to promote these actors and these voice actors that are now just as big a part of games as actors are in movies.
Yes, indeed.
We'll definitely put a link we'll definitely put a link to that so people can take a look at that. And I wanted to ask you, so how has your work with these incredible games and working with Valve and the success from that, how has that affected your classes? I mean, is it just people bursting down the doors? How's that going?
I love my students, and I think they all get a kick out of the fact that I'm GLaDOS. and I do think that because there is an aspect of my career that they are involved with on a, gameplay level, and since they know about it, since they understand computer games, I mean, they understand it better than anybody else does, trust me. I think that gives me a bit of cred so that when I say something in class, they pay attention. But I'll tell you that people who are interested in the performing arts are very outward-looking people. And all my students realize that you can learn something from anyone. Even just, riding a bus through town, there'll be an interesting character sitting next to them. And they know if they just sit there and listen to that interesting character that this will help them be better actors, better voice actors, better performers. So I think all my students realize that we are, as performers, we study life to make our work better.
Right. That's sounds like the key, just observing other people. But if anyone has street cred, it's you, Ellen. So let's talk about you have an upcoming part in Pacific Rim, and that was a big talk for a while. Or towards the end of last year, we heard that famous GLaDOS sounding voice in the trailer, and I wanted to ask you about that. How is that AI character that you voice in Pacific Rim different from the GLaDOS character?
Well, of course, this is all out of the mind of Guillermo del Toro, who is a brilliant director. If you all or if any of your listeners have seen the movie Pan's Labyrinth, then I, don't need to say anything more about him.
No.
But he has a wonderful creative imagination. And, I don't want to give away too much about the movie now, but the AI that I voice is called Gypsy Danger, which I love that name, Gypsy Danger. I think that's really cool. But Senor del Toro really wanted to use GLaDOS's voice. So he contacted the folks at Valve and Gabe Newell and got permission to actually recreate the GLaDOS vocal sound. And when I went into the studio initially, Bill Van Buren, who was the producer for the Portal games, among many other things at Valve, was very gracious. He knew I was nervous, and he went with me. Because I realized that, the GLaDOS sound wasn't just something that came out of my head. It was created with the folks at Valve, and I wanted to be sure if Del Toro wanted GLaDOS, then Valve and I wanted to give him GLaDOS, and I knew that Bill Van Buren could help me do that. And Bill was very nice and went with me for the first recording session, and even told Del Toro that if he wanted to know the this is where my technological limits are very apparent.
That's okay.
He told Del Toro that, he told him the exact equation of how to process my voice.
Sure.
So that it sounded like GLaDOS. Now,
Right.
I imagine, between a film and between a game, there are of course some technological differences, I am sure. I couldn't tell you what they are, but when I went to see The Hobbit, I saw the Pacific Rim trailer. The voice on the Pacific Rim trailer sounded like GLaDOS.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, indeed. Well, it sounds great.
How that all came about.
Right. Now, I heard something that it won't be the voice, that was just a teaser in the trailer, and that the voice will sound different. Do you know anything about that?
I have no idea. That's the first I've heard, Anthony.
Okay.
So as far as you know, as you went in through the whole process, like you were saying, Guillermo del Toro really wanted to just use the exact same GLaDOS-like filters and even like the mannerism.
I cannot really speak to that.
Okay.
But I know that when I was in the recording studio, I recorded every line as if it was GLaDOS recording.
Nice. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Good too.
So, however Del Toro has finally decided to process my voice, I can't speak to that. I don't know. But
Right.
Okay.
I trust his artistic vision. So I imagine I'm going to be pleased with the final result.
Certainly, I think we all will. And obviously, I think everyone's aware that it's not going to be the same character as GLaDOS. It might sound the same. It's your voice doing a similar voice, which we're all still looking forward to.
Exactly.
And I think this is excellent.
So, speaking on that, earlier you were talking about how Valve had put this computer, almost licensed a soundtrack, if you were, like the
text to speech.
Something like that. For where they brought you in to voice GLaDOS. How much creative freedom did you get doing that voice, even though you had to kind of like follow this already created voice work?
Well, in the beginning of Portal, I really tried to sound exactly like the computer-generated voice. But as Portal goes along and GLaDOS starts freaking out, and of course after she loses the morality core, her voice changes dramatically. And at that point, up until that point, I tried to stay with the vocal quirks of the computer-generated voice. And then, after I lost the morality core, my voice changed completely, and that voice we came to together as well. I was in the studio, and I tried several different sounds, and I said, which one do you like? And, of course, the one that we ended up with was the one that they wanted. And, the same thing with the turrets, actually. I was just in the studio with them, and they said, Ellen, give us some different sounds, possible sounds for the turrets. And they told me what the turrets were, and I said, okay. And they picked the cute one.
Which is great, because the cuter, the better. Yeah.
I love the turrets, and I have to tell you that some young friends of mine, the Tillman sisters, actually sent me a stuffed turret who I have named Tillman. And Tillman the turret, I'm looking at him right now. He's sitting on our couch. And I, in the evening when John and I, my husband, John Patrick Lowry, voice of the Sniper, and author of his own book, Dancing with Eternity, when we watch Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert every evening, I'm always sitting there with Tillman the turret.
I love you guys. I want to come over.
You can't.
Does John play guitar at the house?
Yes, of course.
And I believe he plays trombone as well, right? Oh, wow. just a very musical family. I want to talk about John for a moment, if we can.
I love to talk about my husband. Shoot.
He's an amazing voice actor as well.
He's much better than I am.
Oh, well.
No, he really is.
If you don't have your speakers turned up, I'll say no. I mean, you guys are both great, and to have the both of you, and the Sniper is, his voice work on the Sniper is really great and just iconic. But how did the two of you meet?
We met in Europe.
Oh.
We were both hired for a European tour of Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein II's show, Showboat. Showboat was written in 1927, and it is truly one of the great American musicals. And John and I were both hired. John was hired out of Indiana to come play in the pit, play guitar and banjo. I was hired out of New York to play the ingenue lead, Magnolia. Of course, I was an ingenue back in the day. And the interesting part of the story is that the actors and the directors and, the choreographer and everything, we were all in Arnhem, Holland, putting the show together for 2 weeks. And then all of the instrumentalists came over, including John. Well, there's a place in the second act where Magnolia, the role I played, was supposed to accompany herself on the guitar. Well, I had bought a guitar. I had been taking lessons. I was trying to play Can't Help Lovin' That Man on the guitar. And it was very difficult for me. It was in the key of E-flat, and it was a hard song. It wasn't one of the easy keys to play on guitar. So when John got there, being a professional guitarist, the conductor introduced me to John in the hopes that John would help me continue to work on my guitar so that I could accompany myself. And so the first thing I ever said to John at the cafe at this theater in Arnhem, Holland, the first thing I ever said to him was, "Have they told you how pitiful I am?" And then, since 1984, he has found out exactly how pitiful I am. So the upshot is I never learned how to play guitar, but I got the guitarist.
So let me see if I get this story straight. You lay your eyes on John, and then you know this song by heart, and you're a phenomenal guitar player, but you say, "I just can't figure it out. Maybe if you could have that guy teach me." That's how I hear this story. I don't know.
Well, but the thing is, I could play the song in D major, but I could not play the song in E-flat major. And I am sure there are a lot of people amongst your listeners who know how to play guitar, and they know that there's a big difference between D major and E-flat major. D major is a very easy key to play in. And I was learning it in D major because that was as close to E-flat. Well, what happened is John continued to play the song in the pit, and I finger synced on my guitar, which we called die große Prop, which in German means the big prop. So we carried this guitar all over Europe, and I finger synced on the guitar while John played from the pit. And I'll tell you, if we were in a big enough theater, people actually thought I was really playing because I was very good at the finger syncing.
And that's teamwork right there.
Yes.
That's proof you were meant to be together.
Well, one of the many. But I have to say that during that European tour, John and I fell madly in love. And we met in 84, and we got married in 86. So. Wow.
And being in Europe, I guess that definitely helps things along, right?
Yeah, it kind of added to the romance quotient, I think.
Wow. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. We just have a couple other quick questions.
Sure.
We want to know, obviously, big in games, but are you big into games? What's the last game that you played?
I watched John play Half-Life 2.
Okay. All right.
So is John the gamer in the household then?
What?
Is John the gamer in the household?
Yes.
Or
Oh, yeah.
yes. Oh.
Well, what's
I
your
play bridge.
Bridge? Okay.
I'm a bridge
That's a game.
player.
That's a game. She's a gamer. You heard it here. Well, what was your favorite game to play that you've ever played? Have you picked up a controller? Have you played? You must have played a little bit of Portal or something.
Young friends have let me, sort of play a little bit of Portal 2, but I can't get anywhere. Whatever level they're on, I'm just there. I mean, I can't figure it out. John, of course, has played Portal and played Portal 2. He has not beaten me yet, I would like to say. But, we do have the games, and he does play them. The game that I enjoyed with John is quite an old game, but it's called Starship Titanic. And
Starship Titanic.
Titanic, and it's got
heard of that.
John Cleese is a voice, and Eric Idle is a voice. And it's based on the Hitchhiker books.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Right. It's based on those books. And Douglas Adams, before his passing, he actually okayed the creation of that game, Starship Titanic. But it came out, oh gosh, 2000 maybe, something like that.
Right. Wow, okay. Very interesting. Well, we really appreciate the time and filling us in. And I guess the only other thing is we can see you. We can see Ellen McLaine, Pacific Rim is the next place we can see you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And also, if anybody's listening from the Pacific Northwest, right now, GLaDOS and Cortana are doing a production of The Mousetrap at the Village Theater in Issaquah. So Jen Taylor, who is the voice actor who voiced Cortana in all the Halo games, she and I are both in a production of The Mousetrap at the Village Theater in Issaquah, Washington. And it's so much fun.
Oh.
He's a wonderful actor.
And when is that? When is it?
How long is that going?
It's tonight.
Uh-oh.
Tonight, okay.
It's tonight through March 24. Tonight, March 24, people can come to the Village Theater and see GLaDOS and Cortana or Ellen McLaine and Jen Taylor in action.
We'll definitely put a link to the theater on the site. And
people go. We want sold-out shows.
Definitely.
We want sold-out shows.
We'll get it out there. We'll tweet it out to everybody.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Doug.
It's been a real joy. It really has been. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Doug. Bye, y'all.